Hey drawing students, welcome back to online school. We're going to put some objects on our grids today. So this is where we left off. Now, if this was a plan view of a grid, looking straight down on it, you obviously don't have to draw this. Plan view of a grid is familiar to you because it's what you drew your plans of your bedrooms on graph paper. In a plan view, we can have a scale that is consistent throughout the entire plan. And we could say, for example, 1 inch equals 1 foot. And no matter where you are on the drawing, that's going to be the scale. The scale is the scale in the same way that you have a scale on a map. And if you remember, when we did the isometric drawings, we also could count on there being a consistent scale. For example, if you draw a shape like this, you could likewise say 1 unit in the drawing equals 1 inch in real life. And that was the scale that we mostly used when we were drafting these shapes. Now, however, we're presented with something different, because obviously on this grid, every time we take a step back, our squares are getting smaller. You can see that if you take a plan, you tilt it away from you, the further back you go, the smaller the squares get. And that's what we're trying to represent. And so what I want you to do is think of each horizontal line on your grid as representing a vertical plane. And we're going to call those planes slices. So each time we take a step back, we're moving into another slice of reality. And the convention of one-point perspective is that every slice in the drawing, everything we draw within any plane is going to have its own scale. And that's something that I want you to remember. Who knows, with distance learning, I may have to give you quizzes just to make sure you're paying attention. So this is what every slice has its own scale. And that's going to make drawing things, if we have that knowledge, then drawing things on this grid is going to be very easy. Now, let's begin by drawing a 2x2 cube. And let's draw it just a little bit up from the left corner, right in here. I think I'm going to zoom in a little to make this easier for you to see. So we're going to work in this corner. And we're going to begin by drawing the footprint of this 2x2 cube. And that's going to be really easy because we already went to all the trouble of making a grid. To create a footprint, all we have to do is count 2 back, 2 across, 2 back again, and 2 over. So all we're doing is outlining lines that are already there. This is what we did. We just outlined 2 by 2, and that's where our cube is going to sit. Now comes the interesting part. Pay attention because it takes some people a while to get this. We need to know how tall it's going to be. If we measured 2 inches tall and went up, you can already see that looks a little too tall. It doesn't look like the front of our cube is going to be a square. And that's because the only slice of the drawing where inches are actually inches is this one. Once we just go 2 steps back, now what used to be 2 inches is actually just, you can see for yourselves, it's now just 1 3/4 inches. So we could draw the face of our cube just by moving the t-square and going up 1 3/4 inches. Like that. And if we go up the same amount on the other side, and connect across the top, that would be the face of a 2x2 cube. Remember, in isometric, we didn't use the term face because in isometric, no side was facing us. We always had a corner coming towards us. In one-point perspective, though, everything we draw is going to have something facing us. We're going to call that the face. The measuring way works, but it's a little clumsy and unnecessary because what we could have done and what we're going to do from now on is we're just going to create our own rulers. That's what the scrap paper is for. We're going to mark off how many units we need going one way along the ground, and we can use that ruler to measure the height of anything within the slice that we're trying to draw in. So if I had wanted to make something that was 4 units tall instead of 2 units tall, I could have just marked 4 along here, or 5, or 6, and then we can turn the scrap paper. And that's how big things are in the slice that is defined by this horizontal line. I hope you can all see that if we tried to use the same ruler further back, it wouldn't work at all because now our vertical units would be much bigger than our horizontal units. And that's why we have to keep this mantra in mind. Every slice has its own scale. If we're going to draw something further back, we have to make a new ruler wherever we're drawing. Now to finish this cube, there are two ways that we could do it. We could use a piece of scrap paper back here in this slice and measure 2 units and go straight up and find that point and connect it from here to here and up. However, there's a much simpler way and more accurate way of doing this, which is using the vanishing point. So I'm going to turn my t-square upside down to use it as a straight edge. And I'm going to line up this corner with the vanishing point up here. And I'm going to make a short line heading towards the vanishing point, like that. And then I'm going to go over here and do the same thing, being careful that my straight edge is going right for the vanishing point and starting right on this corner, and like that. Why don't I draw all the way to the vanishing point? Well, I'm making a cube. So, obviously, the lines don't need to be that long. I don't know if any of you ever used a Play-Doh Fun Factory. They looked like this. And you pushed the clay in. And then you push the lever down. And the clay comes pushing out in a process known as extrusion. When the piece is long enough, you cut it off with the knife. You can cut them off anywhere you want. So, how I want you to think of what we're doing here is, I want you to think of this as an extruded shape. It's extruded in the form of a square. And right now, our extrusion goes all the way to the vanishing point. What we're trying to figure out how to do is we're trying to figure out how to cut it off with the plastic knife. And notice that our knife has to go right through this slice, which is where the back of the footprint is. And that's the clue to cutting off any extrusion in one-point perspective. Just find the back of your footprint. Use your t-square and now your triangle again. Line it up with the back of the footprint. I'm going to put my pencil right on that corner, slide my t-square over to it, and then just go up until you hit the top of your extrusion. Then you come around this way and you go straight across. And that is the much simpler and correct way to find your back corners and to chop off your shape. So I want you to copy exactly what you've seen me do in your drawing. Put a 2x2 cube in the bottom left-hand corner. And we'll do one more cube together. And we're going to put it much farther back so we can see how small it would be. So I'm going to put one right here. I want you to do yours in roughly the same position. So outline the footprint. Measure the height of your cube with a different piece of scrap paper. So in this slice, units are going to be much smaller. Turn your ruler vertical. Mark the top of your cube. The face of your cube, I should say. Draw verticals to the approximate height of that face. Draw horizontal exactly through that mark. And there's the face of the cube. Finally, go to the vanishing point. From your upper corners. I made those lines longer than I had to. And then you go from the back of the footprint, which is here, straight up, and you go from that corner straight over. And I'm going to erase some of the inside lines. And that's a cube that's much farther away. For now, I want you to avoid drawing shapes right in front of your vanishing point, because things get a little trickier right in this zone. Work either over here or over here. And your assignment is to create one more 2x2 cube anywhere on the page. And then, just to make sure you understand the scale idea, I would like you to create a cube, not a cube, but a box that has a 2x2 base, just like these cubes, but I want it to be 4 units tall, which means your scrap paper ruler is going to have to be 4 units. And that's all I want you to do. I don't want you to keep making shapes on these grids until I've checked your 3 cubes and your 4th object, which is going to be 2x2 by 4. And as I said, you can place those anywhere you want, but try to avoid this area right under the vanishing point. Good luck, and I'll be seeing you soon.